And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Vincent Genna, author and internationally acclaimed psychic therapist, medium, and spiritual master. Today, he's here to talk about what's happening in 2025 and his book, The Secret That's Holding You Back. Vincent, welcome back. It's great to have you again.
Oh my gosh, Jeff, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well,
And Happy New Year. We still can say that.
Yeah, we can. That's true. It's early enough.
Yeah, it is.
Actually, has Chinese New Year passed yet?
No, I don't think so. I haven't heard anything yet. And I don't even know what year it's going to be. So that's going to be curious when I see that.
Yeah, I think it may be the year of the snake, but I could be wrong about that.
That could be good and bad.
Yeah. Well, I've gained probably about 100,000 subscribers since you were on 2 years ago. And there are a lot of people that may be meeting you for the first time today. So can we start with which came first, you being psychic therapist and medium, or you having the master's in social work?
Oh, no, that the psychic stuff came first, but it didn't come at a young age like so many other people, Jeff. You know, it was not that kid who walked into my bedroom at 5 years old and saw an angel sitting at the foot of my bed. It usually was my mom with a belt because I did something that she wanted to whack me for or something like that, you know. But it wasn't until I was 28 years old that I actually developed the psychic abilities. And then later on, because I had the psychic abilities and I felt that, you know, as long as I'm getting into the human psyche and I'm talking with their soul and I'm getting into those deep, dark places, I wanted to make sure that I didn't cause any harm and that I knew everything that I was talking about in regards to the human mind. And so that's when I went back to school and got my BA in psychology and my master's in clinical social work. So that's kind of like why I call myself a psychic therapist and medium at this time, because it's like 12 years of therapy when you have a reading with me.
I noticed that you said you developed your psychic abilities, but before you worked on it, was there one incident that happened that made you realize, hey, I think I'm psychic?
Oh, it wasn't like that. It would have been really nice if it was. What actually happened was I was the bullied one. And I think we talked about this the last time I was here. I was the bullied one in school until I was 17 years old. So I went through a lot of torment. And I also went through a lot of torment at home with my parents, and they were abusers as well. So I went through emotional, physical abuse. And my abuser in school, he was the class clown and he was the famous jock. So he had two things going for him. And he would antagonize and instigate the other jocks to bully me. And he would just have to say my name, and that would give everybody permission to start picking on me, right? All right. Well, I have also been a professional singer, actor, and dancer. And as a reminder, because I always love throwing this out there sometimes, especially to new viewers, I was in the movie Grease with John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. I was a dancer in that movie, right? My biggest claim to fame. Look, if I was going to be in a famous movie, that was the one to be in because it's going on forever and going down as one of the greatest movies ever made. And so my high school reunion was coming around at the same time that movie became a blockbuster within a couple of years, right? So I went to my high school reunion and everybody was so surprised that I was there. I was married. I had a 2.5-year-old son. So I felt pretty successful and a big chip on my shoulder. So that guy was there, of course. And he shouted my name from across the hall, and everybody froze because they were like, oh my gosh, so, you know, Dennis used to do that in order to make me, you know, everybody pick on me. So they were wondering what he was going to do. And he ran up to me, gave me such a big bear hug, and he wouldn't let me go. And it was kind of like an apology that I felt, but through the heart and through the soul. He just wouldn't let me go. Sat with me the entire night. Well, to make a long story short, he became a really dear friend of mine now. Once enemy, dear friend. But for some reason, I knew his life was falling apart, even though he wasn't saying anything about it. So now I can look back and say something psychic must have been going on at that time because something internally was telling me there's something wrong in this guy's life. And he was not one to ever talk about his life in that way. He always bragged about himself. You say, hey, how you doing today? And the rest of the conversation was about how wonderful he was doing. You know, married his childhood sweetheart, had 3 children, the greatest job. He's being promoted, making all this money, has this expensive condo in Connecticut, blah, 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 all of that. And I just kept hearing internally, BS, BS, BS. So we were visiting him one weekend, and on the trip back home, my heart was breaking, and I started crying. And my wife was like, "What is the matter?" And I said, "It's." And I'm allowed to say his name because he's given me permission, Dennis. I know Dennis's heart is breaking. Something is wrong, desperately wrong with him, but I don't know how to help him. So it was a cry out to God and a plea. I was begging God. And I never begged God, even though I was picked on, never ever turned to God during that entire time period. But now I did. And I pleaded with God to give me the ability to be able to help him and people like him. So it was, I guess it was my most selfless plea that I have ever made. And within a week of that time, bam, that's when everything started to hit and things started opening up. And I was being told I was meeting psychics and there were spirits in my home. And I was being told that I was going to be a spiritual teacher and that a psychic ability was going to open up inside of me and that I was going to be this, well-known and all the work that I was going to do in a spiritual master, yada, 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 yada. All of this stuff I never heard of before, nor was ever interested in. And it just laid upon me like that. And so I say thrust upon me, watch out what you ask for, definitely. And so I got it. And I was very resistant to it in the beginning, Jeff, because I didn't want to be a psychic. I mean, to me, those were the loonies from California. You know what I mean? It's like, back on Long Island, where I was living at the time, you drive down the highway and you see a palm, Sister Sarah reading, psychic reading. I was like, what am I supposed to do? Cousin Vinny, psychic readings, just give me a break. And so that's how it began. But eventually, of course, I just let it flow and go into it. And the more I went into it, the more things just began to open up. So that's how it happened to me. It was all because I wanted to help my friend. And of course, I went back. I was able to help him. He became a spiritual teacher himself. He talks about me all the time. He gave me permission to talk about him in the book and everything that I wrote. And so it just was an amazing experience from that point, but all because I wanted to help him. So my greatest enemy became my greatest blessing for the gifts that I have today.
I know we're just going to be speculating here, but at what point do you think he realized that he was harming you and knew that he was doing wrong and wanted to make amends for it?
It's interesting because, like I said, though the words were never said, it was that moment that he saw me again at that 10-year reunion. I know he wasn't thinking about me at all, but here's what's really funny, and I don't remember this, but he swears by it. He said that when I was hugging him and he was hugging me, at that moment, that I whispered in his ear, "I'm going to change your life." He swears by that. I know I never said that because I would never have thought this guy was going to be a friend of mine. I had no idea how he was going to be treating me, but I did feel this incredible love. There sometimes people, when they cause such harm, they can't even speak the words, "I'm sorry." And especially for him, there was kind of a narcissistic thing going on that he had to always have the right appearance. And he even rented a Porsche to come to the 10-year reunion to impress everybody, right? So I knew that was most important to him, right? And so, and the bragging all the time. Whenever you hear that, you just know something is wrong. And that's not even with, psychic ability. That's definitely psychological. But it was just in those moments, I didn't need him to say anything. I didn't need him. And we went out after this started happening to me. Occasionally we'd be on the phone because I was on Long Island, he was in Connecticut, and we would talk to each other, have long conversations, nothing about what was going on with me. Finally, this happened to me, and all this insight came to me. And I said, I have to see Dennis. So I called him up. I said, when are you coming to Long Island? And he told me when. I said, we're going out to a bar. I'm going to get you a drink. So we go to a bar. We're sitting at the bar on bar stools. We get beers. And I said, look at me. I want you to keep your mouth shut and not say a word until I tell you to speak. Okay, you understand? Because I had to shut him up because it would be all about him that entire time. Well, I knew exactly what was happening to him. Your wife left you. She took the kids. You lost your job. Your health is declining tremendously. You need surgery on your back. You have to move out of your condo. I'm just listing that. And I said, and you have been doing this all by yourself because you're afraid to tell anybody else because you think they won't like you anymore. And I'm telling you right now, I'm here and I'm going to keep liking you and you're going to open up to me and we're going to be talking about this all the time until you feel better. Do you understand me now? Now you can talk. And he could do nothing but stand up, grab me again, and bawl. He just was crying and crying and crying. And from that point on, he needed to talk to me. I have to call you. I have to call you because he wanted to hear everything that I said. And I would catch the funny thing is he kept with the BS, because he would be, oh yeah, I got you, Vinny. I'm doing that. Don't bull me now. I'm a psychic. I know I'm understanding. No, you're lying. You don't really understand what's going on. So just listen again, so I had to keep catching him on his stuff. And it's so funny because when I became a psychotherapist, I was able to incorporate that. Like I'd get clients sitting in front of me. I knew what their problem was right from the get-go. But of course, you have to do it the licensed way and let them come and let them talk and let them wait until they get to their problem before you tell them what the problem is. But I was diagnosing them like this. My supervisors were saying, my, Vince, you must have a sixth sense about this because you can accurately diagnose your clients within 5 minutes of meeting them. Usually it takes a couple of meetings before we diagnose them. You're really good at this. You found your calling. And I'm like, okay, I couldn't say, in the School of Social Work or with your psychotherapist supervisor that, oh, I'm doing it psychically, so, but that's how I incorporated it. And that's what happened with him. So even though the I'm sorry's weren't there, his opening up to me was. It was. But I did have my greatest fans now are those guys on Long Island who would beat the crap out of me. They dedicated each reunion to me that we had. We had a 10-year, so that was the beginning. The 20-year, the 30-year, the 40th year, they all dedicated to me because of how they abused me. And they would be dancing with me. They were partying with me. They were loving me. Because I wasn't angry at them. I wasn't retaliating. I wasn't holding any resentment towards them. And they couldn't understand how I could forgive them. But at the 40th, they were having fun arguments with each other as to who abused me the worst. They weren't saying, oh, but you did this. I may have done this. You did. No, they were arguing with each other saying, no, man, I threw him in the dumpster. And the other one would go, yeah, you threw him in the dumpster. I shoved his head in the toilet and flushed it, man. I did that. So they were trying to resolve and there's where the forgiveness, where they were asking for forgiveness and all of that healing came from without saying the exact words for it. And I was calming them down and saying, listen, guys, you went through your own crap when you were younger. I said, I hold no ill will towards you guys at all. I promise you. And that's what made them love me more, I guess, because of that. That's why forgiveness is so important. You can change the relationship instantaneously.
How does being psychic work for you? Are you clairsentient, clairaudient, have premonitions, or all of the above?
Okay. When I was a professional actor, I would use Clairol to get rid of the gray. Now I tell everybody I am Clairol, okay? Because it all comes to me. It all developed that way. I can see, I can hear them, I can feel them, I can smell them. I get their emotions, sense them. And the knowing, all of that is working. And I teach that. for beginners and advanced people how to open all of that up, and don't just hold on to just the visual. Train yourself to hear, and so it's been wonderful that way, that I am able to use that. And I consider myself an evidential medium, like over in the UK. The UK is what coined that, the tutors and the mediums there. They're evidential medium. They just spend most of their time picking up pieces of evidence because they want to make sure this is real, that this spirit is here, and it's the spirit that you know. So it's pieces of evidence that you would know or that you would find out about. And so, yes, to do that and to respect it so much, I actually went over to England 2 years to study for a week each, at the Arthur Findlay College of Psychic Sciences in Stansted. Very famous. Yeah,
like
very famous
Hogwarts.
college. Oh my gosh, totally like Hogwarts. I fell in love with it. But I went over differently. I went over with the belief that I didn't know what I was doing, and I wanted to learn from them, and not just tooting my horn, but they respected me for that. They don't like American mediums. And they would even say that some Americans come over here to study just so that they could use our names, and say that they studied at Arthur Findlay, because it is a very famous institute. And I said, no, I came over here to learn from the best. I want to know what I need to know in order to do this well, because I cared about it so much. So they're tools to me. And I guess what helped me also, Jeff, is going to school and getting my psychotherapy degree, right? We had to go for CEUs, all right, continued education credits, units, they were called, and constantly learn about psychological maybe new modalities that started, or principles that would change, or anything like that, just to keep it going. So that way you're working with people and you're working with something very deep, very important. You've got people's lives in your hands when you're working with them that way, right? So I felt the same way about my psychic and mediumship skills. I want to hone them. Where do I go to hone them? And I actually I was doing a weekend at the Edgar Cayce Association for Research and Enlightenment in Virginia Beach. I was one of their keynote speakers for the weekend. And so was a Janet Nohavec, who was a tutor over in Arthur Findlay, who had a spiritualist church in New Jersey, very famous. God rest his soul. She passed a few years ago. Incredible medium. And I just went up to her and I said, oh, what do I have to do to be a medium like you? And she said, go to this college. And so I went there based on what she said, and she was very revered there because she was incredible. So that's what I did with the skills. Then it was really important for me to learn to use them the right way. So I use them as tools.
Whenever you started doing it, or whenever some other person starts dabbling in it, do they ever start questioning their own sanity? Like, is this real, or am I going crazy?
Well, it wasn't that I would question whether I was going crazy. That my family was doing for me. It's okay. My wife, particularly, I've been with my wife. Thank God for her. She's been my blessing. She'd been with me since I was 17 years old. So she knew what I knew and what I didn't know. And when this all began happening to me, she knew that this was nothing from my past at all, that this had to be something that was going on and something special. So she would really support me. So I never felt that I was crazy, but what I did feel, and I still check myself on, am I narcissistic? Am I believing that I have got, because look, when it comes to the entertainment field or any of the creative fields, and now because of television shows, the psychic and mediumship field, you see all these people coming out from the woodwork. Oh, they're the greatest singers. You remember American Idol in the first seasons, and even now, right? You got those people that couldn't sing a tone at all, right? But they're believing that they're the greatest. I'm so great. Well, we got the same thing happening with psychics and mediums now, thinking that they're fabulous, and they're actually hurting a lot of people. Well, that was my greatest concern. Am I blowing smoke up my own butt? Am I having these grandiose feels that I can do this? And I would constantly I would even say to God, God, listen, if I am using the words wrong, if I'm saying the wrong thing, if I'm preaching about you and the ascended masters and who we are the wrong way, take away my voice, take away my abilities, take away everything. I can't do that. I don't want to do that. And every time I might go there, I don't go there as often anymore, but I'm like, I will check myself, and I'm like, am I still doing this for the right reason? All of a sudden, I'll get an email from somebody about how I completely changed their lives. And that if it wasn't for me, they don't know what direction they would have gone in, or if they would still be here. All of these kinds of things, or how loving. When I was at the college and I was doing platform readings, right, as a student, and we were doing all these demonstrations, we had to do it and bring in spirits for the students. This Japanese student came up to me, hysterical, crying, and she said, "While you were up on that stage and the way you were speaking with everybody, I felt and saw God coming out of your heart. This light that I knew was God that hit me, and then it was coming out of my heart." And she just was tearing. And I'm like, no, oh my God, nobody's ever said anything like that to me. And those are some of the most important words that I need to hear to validate that I'm doing it for the right reason. And I do love people. I ask myself all the time, do I really care? Am I just, sounding that way and being, oh yeah, I love everybody. But then I would think, I'd be, there's a janitor that is cleaning up something, and I go over and I help him and I compliment him, and I say, hey man, just somebody hasn't told you, you do such an incredible job here. These floors are unbelievable. I did that while I was in school and wherever I go. And so I say to myself, if what society would call the lower class of people that I'm loving and caring about, they're not going to do anything for me. They can't. They can just about get themselves. So how can they put me up? How can they make me famous? How can they put me on a podcast or anything like that? I just care about them as people, and that they're equals and they're my brothers and sisters. Then I know I'm doing it the right way. So it wasn't about being crazy. It was about being authentic. That's what mattered to me the most. And am I really being authentic?
Vincent, I'm going to switch gears with you.
Oh, go ahead.
What is going to happen in 2025? What can you tell us?
Okay. I said before we started recording this, when you were asking me if I was going to do some predictions, I told you I actually stopped doing predictions on Coast to Coast. Coast to Coast used to have me on every January 1st or right about there and get predictions for the year. Excuse me. And the reason why I stopped doing it, because the past 10 years, okay, and before that, it doesn't matter what years we pick, each year has gotten worse and worse and worse. And I'm not just talking about with the people and the way they're acting. That has definitely gotten worse. But with the devastation on the planet environmentally, the storms are not the normal storms. We used to get, we're thousands of years old on this planet, right? And so there were always catastrophic events. But there'd be a catastrophic event, and then 10 or 20 years would go by, and then another catastrophic event, and then more years. So there was always time for us to rebound and at least try to learn something, but at least settle down back into the norm, right? Well, that was the problem, settling back down into the norm. We should have never gone back down there, because now it's event after event after event after event. This is Sodom and Gomorrah going on, just so that you know. Okay, this is a perfect storm for learning how we are so powerful that we can destroy ourselves. And that's the direction that we're headed towards. As a matter of fact, people asking me constantly, are we in the book of Revelation? Is this Armageddon? And I'm like, well, if you really want to read, and you want to read the symbolism of it, right? 6 of the 7 seals have been broken, which led to war, poverty, a pandemic. We had an epidemic going on, right? All of that was part of one of the seals. And then floods, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, storms. That's another part of the seals, right? So now everybody is waiting for that seventh seal to open, because the seventh seal is where all peace is coming. 2025 is coming even higher to a head than it was before. So there's going to be more. They're not stopping the bombing. This peace, this ceasefire nonsense. Oh, that's just to throw everybody off. It's not going to go that way. It's not going to continue. There's going to be more bombing. There's going to be more of that. And if you keep doing that, and you keep having people picking up guns and going into schools and shooting kids, or going into buildings and shooting people, random shootings all over the place, you're disrupting everything here that was meant to be. So yes, is it going to get worse? Absolutely. So more volcanic eruptions. Look at Iceland. Iceland is overloading in lava. That hasn't happened in a long time. And other places in the middle of the ocean, there's more earthquakes going on, and there's more volcanic activity that is going on. Storms wiping out. Asheville over here in North Carolina, they're still devastated from a storm that hit here, right, and leveled them. Hollywood, Los Angeles, what the heck there? They had fires up in way up northern area, and they hit some homes there, but nothing. The Pacific Palisades don't exist anymore, and all the way into Los Angeles. And I don't know, I was just looking at the news last night. I couldn't tell whether they contained all of the fires or some of the fires or most of the fires. It's still crazy stuff is going on, and we have to wake up. And this year has got to be the year we wake up, begin to wake up. Now, all of my colleagues that I hear, the angel channelers, Bashar from Daryl, who, the tranced alien, are all saying the exact same thing, that we have a chance, we have an opportunity. And when push comes to shove with us, we have to wait until buildings fall on top of us and all this devastation occurs before people start really paying attention and doing their work, internal work. But this time you really got to do it. Here is the good thing about all of that. Okay. I've also seen that energetically, we have set ourselves up, and the universe has set us up for power. So astrologically, we got planets aligning. Whenever we got planets aligning, there's extra power. It's so funny, when you speak to an astrologer, they believe that astrology affects us. I don't believe that, because when we were first created, before all the physical stuff was here, we were told that we have the power, that we were created in its image. Once all the universes were created, we were then told that we would have dominion, that our power has dominion over anything physical, everything physical. So it's really hard for us to conceive that here on Earth, I could affect Saturn, or I could affect something else in the Milky Way, in our universe. But absolutely, that's what we're capable of. Just the same as I believe, we may talk about our extraterrestrial brothers and sisters, as well as us, help to direct the comet that hit the Earth to wipe out all the dinosaurs, so that living man can come down here, humankind can come down here on this planet. We would have been eaten alive. There would be no existence if we were here with the dinosaurs. That's just movie stuff. But scientifically, they have shown that we did not exist at the exact same times. We couldn't have. And so I believe we caused that, just the same as our souls know that. Can I say on your show?
You be you. I'll edit what I need to do.
Okay, the is hitting the fan. And because our souls know that, it has set up a way of tapping into something greater. I'm talking the power that's coming, and that the astrologers are totally validating for this year is power in spiritual understanding. So if you are starting a spiritual journey, if you are already on your spiritual journey, you are going to be opening up more than you can even imagine. And you're going to start tapping into that. Creative ability. Anybody who is imagining things, imagining healing work, imagining, inspirational writings or songs, it doesn't matter, artwork, anything, inspirational, that is going to be very powerful and catapult you going forward this year. Anything to do with that, fulfilling dreams, fulfilling goals, have big goals. Have big ideas. Go back into that dream that you said you'd never achieve. And I don't care if you're 99 years old, if you still want to achieve a dream, this year you'll have the power to do that. And it doesn't matter if how long you have to enjoy that dream. It's that you achieved it is all your soul is wanting to learn and know is that you can. This is the year. And all of that personal growth, that personal turbo engine that's accelerating this year is what's going to be healing the earth, because it starts with the individual. It is so funny. I always hear, I got some great luminaries, and not just luminaries, but you got all these people, all these so-called people in psychology and philosophies, and they always say it's about we. It's about we. There is no I in we. And I like to remind, well, of course not. It's a W and it's an E. But there is no we without the I. You can't have a we it doesn't happen all of a sudden. Now there's just three people. There's three individual people coming together, and that's what makes the we. So therefore, the most common denominator of what needs the healing is the individual. Each of us have to use this energy and step into it now. Step into fulfilling yourself. Step into healing yourself. That's why my book, The Secret That's Holding You Back, is all about that. It's all about healing the self finally, not pretending, because that's what we've been doing. You're gathering up all this information. The self-help and spiritual book publishing company is a $33 billion a year a company, right? That I'm talking about, even the affirmation decks, the books, the programs, all of the audios, all of that. Over $33 billion a year is spent on that stuff. And you would think that we would be the most advanced spiritual planet in the universes, all of them. We are the least advanced out of all of them, just so that you know. And that's what our brothers and sisters from other universes are coming here to try to help us with. Is because you got to be kidding. You're still fighting equality down there. What is your problem? It's just like, we think we're going to heal this planet just because we made the iPhone thinner. We're not going to do that from an iPhone. Albert Einstein knew that, Jeff. He said, if our technology surpasses our spiritual ability to use it, we're in trouble. And that is the case of it. Our technology, that's what makes us think we're so advanced, is our technology. Yes, we're advanced with that. Yes, because we're getting things, we're partnering or learning from Japan and any other countries where they're doing their things scientific. Great. So everybody's focusing on that while everybody else is suffering and there's bombing going on. Now we've got really smart bombs that we don't even have to be there in order to send the bomb. We just push the button over here in my house, like we're doing it virtually, and we can just send a bomb over and just destroy an entire country and a whole group of people, right? And so there's where the problem lies. So we're not and that's all coming from self-condemnation. Self-condemnation. If you don't love yourself, you are not going to love your neighbor. And you're going to some way. Now, that's not for everybody, but there are a lot of people that don't love themselves, and they will harm themselves unconsciously, or lash out, consciously or unconsciously. We are all capable. We all have to heal ourselves. All of those things that we have been suppressing and pushing down inside, they're causing our frustrations. They're causing us to not manifest what we're trying to manifest. And therefore, we wind up experiencing lack. We experience constantly replicating harm and hurt because we're attracting it to us because we believe it. And so that replicates frustration and anger. If you go to to Cain and Abel. That all the stories in the Old Testament, by the way, have metaphysical meanings and messages for us. It's not a history book. It was written in order to help inspire us to learn about ourselves. And we are capable of being both Cain and both Abel, right? What happened there, right? Cain did not feel so close to mom and dad. Mom and dad, in that instance, represents God, the God force, the creator, okay? Well, Cain didn't feel close to them, and because of that, he felt abandoned. He felt neglected. And then that turned into resentment. And the resentment turned into anger. Eventually, the anger became rage. He also felt jealousy because he saw Abel so happy. Oh, well, the reason why Abel's so happy is he's closer. He's mom and dad's favorite one, you know? And so, yeah, look at him. He can be so nice. Everybody can love Abel. And so that negativity inside Cain was able to kill that positive part of Abel. We do that with ourselves. Look at the people today. How abandoned, how abused are they? When I am, and such that you know, I can't tell you how many of your viewers are constantly calling me for readings, even until today. You said that we did this 2 years ago, and I just did last week a couple of clients that said, "Oh yeah, I saw you on JeffMara." You're right. So they're calling me, but they're feeling the same thing. They've been abandoned. They've been abused. They've been neglected. We've not been raised right for a long time. And why it matters is because that part is still inside of us, the little us, the little Vinny that was abused and hurt during school, right? I'm still dealing with him. That's why I wrote my book, because I know there's that inner voice telling you that you're not good enough, you're not lovable, you're not deserving. Meanwhile, now you're an adult. Oh, and you've learned the law of attraction, and you're going through all of these workshops and reading all of these wonderful books out there, and yet you can't get that job you want, or you've been through 3 partners and it still isn't working, or your health is really failing. Right? Why? Why is that happening? You're supposed to be a manifester. You're supposed to be unlimited. We're supposed to be able to create great things. It's because of what you're really believing about yourself. You think you deserve to have great love in your life, but when you examine it, or when I help you examine it, you find and you realize, no, I never came from that background. I didn't believe I was lovable when I was a kid. Oh, well, guess what? That's where the law of attraction is connected to you in your unconscious mind. So that's why this self-healing, because we're also in accumulation. So the way you feel about yourself is going to be the way you wind up treating somebody else, which is then going to accumulate and affect and turn into a whole society of people mistreating and anguish and resentment and lashing out going on, even if there are people in there that are trying to do it the right way. We see that happening all the time. I mean, we just went through almost a civil war here in the United States. I mean, it's like, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, but it's all because we're unhealed. And the world and the earth is showing that. And so the whole way to heal anything, and that's why I say this year, we've set us up for success if we step into it. This has got to be a year to at least slow the process down. Otherwise, we are definitely headed towards destruction here. And even that's okay, because the soul can never be destroyed. But dang, if I have to stop eating pizza because there's no place for me to get pizza anymore, I'm going to be pissed. I mean, I want to make sure that I can, at least if I want to come back here again, that there's a place to come back to, and that my grandchildren are enjoying, and that we can really, truly. I get on a soapbox when you ask me these questions. Here in Asheville, and the same thing is going to be happening in Los Angeles. I know it already has. Here in Asheville, right? We're in the United States here, and of course, we went through all of this election stuff, right? And the right and the left, and all of this political stuff going on, and these people not liking these people, hating these people. Guess what? When there were mudslides covering homes, people, animals, everything, nobody cared whether that was a gay guy helping you out of the mud, or whether that was a Muslim that was saving your wife's life, or that was a black man that was giving you food and water because you didn't have any anymore. Nobody paid attention to that, and they all said, thank you. We are capable of that because that's who we really are. But we've got to stay there. That's what people don't understand. We have to stay there, Jeff. You know, months after 9/11, everybody went back to normal. Everybody was complaining and stepping over the homeless person and criticizing and lashing out and all of that and the anger. We forget it so quickly when there isn't catastrophe and trauma going on. We can stop that. And this is a great year to do that.
You mentioned earlier that the seventh seal hasn't been opened yet.
Yes.
Do you have a timeline for when it will be?
Oh, God. Okay, people are asking me the timeline. That seventh seal is about peace, where you read in there will be no more crying, there will be no more weeping, there will be no more sorrow, there will be no more sadness, there will be no more hurt, there will be no more pain, right? And so everybody is asking me to interpret that. What does that mean? When is that? Where is that? And I'm not backpedaling, and I'm not giving this answer because I'm not psychically good enough to give the answer. But what they are telling me is literally they're going, in your hands. We don't know where. You know, when you think about no pain, no suffering, no hurt, as long as we're on this planet, physicality is, you're going to experience some pain. You know, as long as you're driving a car, you're going to get a flat tire sometime. You know, maybe a slow leak, it doesn't matter. You're still going to get a flat tire. So you're still going to experience some of that here. So how do we not experience pain and suffering or here? Well, the other part of the book of Revelation is eventually my children will overcome the earth, meaning not needed anymore. I don't think it's that soon. It's not in yours and mine life, though we could see a lot of suffering going on, a lot of demise going on, right? But it could go any way at any time. Here's the answer, the better answer to that question. It doesn't matter where or when. It matters what we're doing now. What are you doing now? If, let's say, we all get on the bandwagon and we're doing things the right way now, the earth could just end then and we all go home because we're done, right? But it would be, to me, a little bit more peaceful than a nuclear bomb coming down and burning everybody to death, you know, or a tidal wave coming in, a tsunami coming in and everybody drowning to death. Or to me, it would be just a matter of we all fall asleep and the next day we wake up and we're in this new dimension. That to me is the way it's supposed to happen. It's so funny because I was a hospice social worker and I helped over 500 patients during their dying process, their transitioning, and their caregivers. And the one thing I tell people that I learned from that experience is that we will die the way we live. You will die the way you live. If you're a miserable person, if you've been negative, if you've been fearful, if you are always, you know, either lashing out or diminishing yourself, so, you know, you're nothing. I'm just a nothing. I'm just a, you know, a little speck here living here. I have no meaning in life. You're going to die that way. You're going to die that way. There'll be a disease. There'll be something. I mean, we've got to remember, as a hospice social worker, these people were not dying pleasantly that I dealt with. The ones that die pleasantly are the ones that don't wake up in the morning, right? Or they're in the middle of golf and all of a sudden fall over. You know, what an excuse to get out of their bad score. But it's like that, right? Rather than the suffering that they go through. So to me, it's the same thing as transitioning into the next realm. We just need to get it right. That's the only reason why we're here, is to learn about our divinity and magnificent. Learn that this is your brother and sister that you can help, that helps you, which is why we are now getting help outside of this universe, because we are so messed up here and they are so advanced. And they're trying to teach us and help us to at least get on track and stop the process that we're in right now. So the answer is, it doesn't matter when.
Most of the time that I'll ask my guests, are you coming back next time? They say no.
No,
and,
no, no.
and that's the same with you, because earlier you did mention something about pizza.
I know that. Well, I make my own homemade pizza, so I've got great memories of that. And what I hear, they've got great Jenn-Air ovens on the other side. And so I'm going to be able, and pizza stones and pizza ovens, I'm going to be able to continue making great pizzas in my mind on the other side. So no, Jeff, no. The only reason why I would come down to guide if I could. I would continue that process, but I find no extra reason to have to come back, limit myself again. Actually, just so that you know what I've been told, two very odd things you may not have heard before. One, we were never supposed to be incarnating on this planet to start with. Two, we're over incarnating here and we're all imploding. Okay, here's the way I put this. Disney World and Disneyland, wonderful places to go to, right? Have fun, a blast, everything. Would you move there? No, you visit, right? Then you go back home. That's what the universes were for, to visit, to get away from home, to experience yourself. But what happened is we got so close to this planet. We were so enthralled with the life here and the animals that were here. And oh my God. And then that we had power and we can play with them and we can make these bastardized animals here. I'll take the wings of that eagle and I'll put it on the horse, or I'll take this body and I'll put it over here. Everything that's myth in mythology actually is truth. It's what we created. And of course, that was our interpretation of those creations that we created, abomination to everything that was here. So we were like kids let loose in Toys R Us without any adult supervision. And that's how we then eventually destroyed ourselves. But we got sucked into the earth. Once we got sucked into here, we had to figure out a physical way to be here, which is how we created the bodies. We created the bodies, okay? And then we started creating karma. And because we created karma, we kept feeling the need to fix it. And so we had to keep coming back. Now, you take an unlimited power, like a God source, and you have to compress it in order to be here. We're only using an essence of ourselves, but an essence of something omnipotent and that powerful, and you're compressing it down into some small little thing. That's like compressing the atom. And what happened when we kept learning how to compress the atom? What did we create? A bomb. So the way I've been told by my higher entities is that we're imploding on the planet because we've been compressing ourselves way too long. Modern man is over 11,000 years old, 11,000 years old. There is no way we haven't experienced all that we need to experience. We've already experienced it over and over and over again. So there's nothing else we need to experience. We're just not accepting. We're not accepting. Tell somebody on the street, by the way, you're God, and see this response you get from that. And you have to tell 8 billion people that. You're God, and you're only a part of your godness while you're down here. We are that force, and that's blasphemy. Blasphemy, right? To be able to say that. Why is that blasphemy? With attitudes like that, we've never reached that understanding that we are that divine and magnificent, because we're constantly being told, no, your ego is getting in your way. Oh, I have a wonderful lecture with that. God and your ego are one. Wonderful lecture that is totally controversial and conflicts with every other author, luminary, psychologist's idea that the ego is our problem. We always have to come up with a reason why we have a problem rather than why we're perfect. In the beginning of religion, it was we were sinners. Then with science, well, you're only human. And now with spirituality, it's your ego gets in the way. right? How many times do you hear that in all these books, spiritual books? Is ego, ego, ego. And probably you're not going to be like Jesus because your ego is getting in the way. So we constantly set up excuses for ourselves not to. That's why we turn Jesus into God incarnate, because he came down here to remind us who we were. He's telling us all the things that we can do when we're going, no, I can't heal myself from leprosy. Are you kidding? Leprosy? Really? I can do that? I can walk on water? I mean, I can raise the dead now. No. And so that was making us feel bad. Even though we wanted to believe that, it was making us feel bad. So we had to again come up with a way to cope. What did the brain tell us? Oh, I know why he could do that. Because he's God incarnate. He's the only living Son of God. That's it. He's God. And yet he said, don't call me Lord. And yet he said, these things I do, you can do, and even more. And we even cut off his words, because when he said, I and my Father are one, I am the good shepherd, I am the light of the world, I am the way and the truth and the life, the rest of that sentence and all the sentences were, and so are you. And so are you. But the church in 535 or 25, the years are skeptical, in Nicaea, Italy, that was the church council, tore apart the entire Bible, pulled out the gospels that they didn't want in there, and changed some of Jesus's words so that they could let everybody know, no, you only have one life. No, you got to follow Jesus and everything he says, because you're not good enough. You will never get that way, because they were protecting us, controlling us, whatever you want to say. But they never let us believe who we really are. And even today, we'll go to the class and we'll listen to incredible podcasts like yours, and take these, go to spiritual centers, and then go home and have the hardest time really believing everything that you just heard. Oh, we think we believe, but then we'll criticize ourselves. And then we still don't have a lover. And we still don't have the job we want. And we're still dying of horrible diseases. So what's the answer? Because the information's wrong? No, it's because the application's wrong. So we have a chance this year to heal all, or stop, or delay, or not make as bad. Sodom and Gomorrah. Angel came to Lot, find 11 people, and because God is going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. If you find and wake up 11 spiritual people, we'll stop that. He won't do anything. All right. Lot comes back. The angel, well, did you find any? No, I couldn't find any. All right, wait. Find 9. If you find 9 of them, then maybe there'll be some volcanic eruptions, maybe some fires, but it won't destroy all of you. Go ahead. That was the concept of critical mass. We don't have to get everybody perfect, but the thing is, we have to go in that direction and keep waking up as many people as we can until it is critical mass. You'll know critical mass when the destruction slows down or stops. So that's why they're not asking for everything perfect. Just let's stop the major devastation going on and then work towards stopping it all. But we've got to get to that critical mass and wake up enough. You are waking up. You are part of the salvation of this earth. I don't know if you've been told that before in your podcast, but you are. And your inspiration and your whole reason for wanting to do it, you may not know that that's the exact reasoning for doing it, but it is because somebody has to put the information out into the world. You're like a lighthouse for me. And I'm trying to be a light, and you're putting me out into that. You're shining me. And everybody else that you have on. And there's a reason for that, because we have to wake up. And this is the year we can really do it.
We spoke about you a month or two ago being at a UFO conference with Chris Bledsoe, and I had no idea that you are into UFOs. Can you tell us about that?
I can. They're more into me than I can't say that. No, I was always fascinated by the stories. As a matter of fact, I read the book Communion, was one of my first books, and that was about abducted people and then a psychologist. And there was a series of those books, and I forgot the psychologist's name. He actually created an organization to help those people who have experienced abductions, right? So that all fascinated me. But I never, ever thought that they were bad. That was my feeling. Even though I didn't know a lot about them, I never thought that they were bad. Well, when I was doing this work, I was not involved in ufology or MUFON or any of that stuff or aliens or anything like that. And so I'm doing my work, and this was just now it's about 5 or 6 years ago. I'm just finished a call, and I'm just like closing up and shutting everything down, and I hear, "We'd like to talk with you." And so, okay, being a medium, I'm like, as soon as I start hearing, conversation, I'm wondering if there's a spirit here. Is it the angels? No, I know when the angels are talking to me, and I know when God is talking to me, or Jesus, or deceased loved ones. I'm like, wait. So I turn to my plants, and I'm like, you need watering? What? You're talking to me now? I'm hearing you, my ficus tree? No. And they said, no, it's us. And I'm like, could you please explain who us is? And said, yes, we are an intergalactic council. So believe it or not, Star Trek was always right, except they don't look that way. But there is a council, literally. You think about all the schools and think about a superintendent of those schools and the different superintendents if you're in different districts, right? Coming together and helping to organize and control those schools and making sure the kids are going to the right places. And there's a board, right? There's a board that helps to make those decisions. Well, there's actually a council of advanced aliens who are deceased. They're not physical. They don't incarnate in their universes anymore, from different universes. I get 7 of them. They tell me there's actually, when you hear that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of universes, there's 12 of them. That's it. Just like you think God created 8 billion people. No, God didn't create 8 billion people. God created only a certain number, a small number of souls. We created the rest as part of co-creators to have our multiply our experiences. So no, so just narrow it down. But 7 of them, and there's one voice that speaks to me, and I'm like, okay, why? Why are you talking with me? Well, because I'm a speaker, because I'm out there now, and because I always believed that the aliens were benevolent, they wanted to give me instruction on what to teach others so that we can end their fear, the human fear of aliens, and all of the curiosity about it. Like right now, it's just like they're telling me that the government is spending millions of dollars to try to reverse study their craft that they have, their technology, so that they could replicate it. Because that's one way of replicating things is through reverse, technical ways of pulling it apart. And it's like totally unnecessary, because Albert Einstein said himself, he believed in aliens. And he said the only way that another species can leave their universe and visit anywhere is if they had advanced spiritual principles and understanding. So that makes them spiritual right away, because they have to understand the concept of dematerialization, the quantum physics, in other words, they are more into. And so they said, there's too much fear and there's going to be more, and we're going to be coming down there more because you need so much help. We are actual. They also told me that we are hybrids. Okay. If you ever do a genetic testing, and there's a couple of companies that do that online, right? And you send in your spit, and they'll tell you your genetic background, where you're from. They actually split modern man from Neanderthal. They say those are 2 different DNA strands. Scientists have discovered that. Greg Braden, who is an anthropologist, has studied that in his books. Incredible how they say that the original human DNA strand was cut and spliced with another DNA. But of course, none of the scientists want to say where that DNA came from. So the Intergalactic Council told me right away it was us. We were trying to hasten your evolvement. You would have never evolved if you kept walking around like cave people, right? And bent over. We think evolution. That, well, Darwin was also full of. in all of his, because all of his theories of evolution came from watching a fruit fly. That was his observances from a fruit fly. And it was accepted because it was the only scientists back then studying it. So of course they accepted it. Didn't matter. You know, just like the scientists who first said that the world was flat. They believed him, right? So here we are as hybrids evolving, okay? And so, and it's in the Bible. All right, we'll go back to Cain and Abel. When Cain kills his brother Abel, nobody remembers this part every time I ask them. God is casting Cain out of the Garden of Eden. If you remember the story, you know the story, Jeff, right?
Not that well, honestly.
Okay, not that well. Okay, well, he cast Cain out of the Garden of Eden. And as he's casting him out, he says to him, Cain, you will have the mark of Cain on your forehead. You will never be able to procreate with those of your kind. You will only be able to procreate with those of the earth. Why hasn't anybody studied that? Why hasn't any religious leader tried to figure out what the heck he meant by that? Well, who was of the earth? The Neanderthals. That was who he was procreating with. But modern man appeared with that DNA strand only 11,000 years ago. And that's where they're tracing the modern history of and we evolved so fast and so quick, it was spontaneous. It was a spontaneous appearance because that was the DNA splicing. So they've been trying to advance this body to help our souls achieve what we want to achieve. Now, why are they visiting us? So they help with the pyramids. Oh my gosh, there are some wonderful teachers and wonderful work when I was at that Contact in the Desert, and I'm actually going to be William Henry. He had a great program about the Egyptians and the alien work with the Egyptians. Yes, they actually taught transfiguration. We're actually supposed to turn into light beings. We don't have to. Even Deepak Chopra said we really don't have to die and leave our bodies. We can take our bodies with us. And what he meant is we can transfigure into light beings. It's what Jesus did. He actually went to Egypt to study that because he knew what was going to be going on. He studied transfiguration. He came back. He was crucified, died, and 3 days later, transfigured into a light being, took his body with him. That's what we're supposed to do. The aliens, our brothers and sisters, taught us how to do that. All right, they stopped. Why did they stop? The Intergalactic Council says, you know, it's like your brother and sister. You got an older brother and a younger sister going to school, and they're in the kitchen and they're doing their homework together, right? And so the older brother's looking over to the sister and he's going, "Oh, the answer to 5 is 7. Oh, thank you." In front. Now, mom is in the room with you. And go, Jeff, come on, Jeff. She has to learn herself, so let her do her homework. If she makes mistakes, she makes mistakes. That's how she's going to learn. You just do your homework. So the visitation stopped. You got to let Earth and them figure it out themselves. Stop helping them so much. Okay, it stopped. Mom now leaves the room. Hey, Jenny, the answer to 12 is 4.5. So you sneak the answer and help, right? Wouldn't you? Yes. That's why they were sneaking here. They couldn't do it as often because they were told not to, but they kept coming because of their interest and their love of us. And now what they're trying to do, now they're like, oh, but just the hell with mom, dad, I'm sorry. They're doing terrible. I don't care what you say. We need to help them, okay? And the council's like, all right, go ahead, go help them, for goodness sake. Just take it easy because they're going to want to tear you apart and rip apart your brain and something like that just to try to figure out who the hell you are. And so they come slowly, but now they're coming in droves. So what they're trying to do is genetically change us to help. That's what the abductions were all about. Is to take, all right, let's take some chromosomes, let's get some more genes of this person now living here for a while. They may have been sick. We got to get that. Let's see what's causing the illness. Roswell, not Roswell, Skinwalker Ranch. That's the one I want to think of. Oh, all this cattle that was being mutilated. It wasn't being mutilated, it was being dissected. They were taking pieces of it. What are we being told now that we can't eat that's hurting us? Meat, red meat in particular. Why is red meat killing us? They want to know what's inside the red meat. So they're studying it. They're taking it. And the interesting thing is no other animal will go over and eat that cow or calf that's been killed because there's some energy around it that's keeping them from eating it. So they weren't doing it in harm. They're not trying to harm us. They're trying to help us. So yes, they take half a cow. It's better than taking the whole thing. They got small ships. You know, the chickens they can take, no problems. They don't have to dissect them. But the cow, they're just taking a half, the leg, the a limb, whatever. But right away, where do we go? They're going to build a force. They're going to attack us. And our movies, if I see another, the aliens are getting worse looking than better looking. Now they don't even have eyes. They're just teeth, and they come at you because of sound. Holy, it's just like, so you know what's in there in the mind. And like you said earlier, people want to hear the bad stuff. They don't want to hear good aliens coming down and helping. Maybe that'll last. Okay, that was good for Cocoon. You know, that was nice, that movie. Or Close Encounters, that was fun too. But man, Alien, yeah, and again, Predator, oh man, he's chopping them up and we got to get out of those mindsets. But yes, I have contact with them. It's wonderful. They explain to me so many different things, how they actually fly, how they do go from dimension to dimension, why they go to vortexes, you know, all of that stuff, Jeff. It's just been fascinating and amazing. But here's the problem. Nobody in the UFO world wants to just hear from a psychic, right? Because it's not scientific enough. They still don't see us as a science, but they do see remote viewing as a science. Why? Because the government decided to get remote viewers. Let me tell you something. When you ask a remote viewer, how is this working? And if they don't tell you psychically, then they're lying. Of course it's psychic. If you're able to see an object on the other side, I actually participated in one of the biggest studies. It was the Gonfeld experiments, which was about remote viewing in the very beginning. And that was way back in the early 80s. Okay, this first started happening to me. And I participated in a Rhine Institute. Rhine Institute is over here in North Carolina, right? And so they had satellite offices and clinics. And one was in New Jersey, Princeton, New Jersey, where I lived right next door to. And so I saw this ad looking for people to participate in this research. And so they had a person and these two safes, the walls were this thick, where they were going to cut out all stimulation. I had golf balls taped to my eyes and just headphones on that I can only hear them, everything pitch black. All senses were kind of like deadened and blocked, especially visual and sound. And in the other room was just the guy, and he had his eyes open, and a television was in front of him, and they would play a video. And all he had to do is just watch the video. My job was to describe what he was watching. Okay. And the most interesting thing that happened that I never expected, I came out of the room and they're staring at me. And there's three scientists, and there's one doctor who's very famous. He died, but before he died, he was able to write in the parapsychology journals, and I was included in that. He stayed looking at me, they're going, I said, did I do okay? He said, did you do okay? Not only did you describe what he was seeing on that tape, because it was VHS back then, and a computer would randomly stop. It was a random picture that he would be looking at. He said, you described every picture on that particular VHS tape. And I went, oh. They said, would you come back and try this again? And I said, yeah. Okay, I went back and I tried it again, different person altogether. Not only did I describe what was on that tape, I described what was on every single tape that they had there that they were using in the experiment. And they didn't understand. Their theory was an outgoing personality allowed for more psychic ability. And because I was an actor, I had an outgoing personality. So they actually asked, would you try and teach that to somebody? Could you teach somebody to be more outgoing and be more psychic? And I said, oh, sure, I'd try. But then the doctor died and the experiment went with it. But Remote viewing is psychic. That was remote viewing that we were doing. But you see, they have a step-by-step protocol, and they put on white lab jackets. And I'm just saying that because it's fun. So that's scientific. But me, I do get things validated afterwards, because then I say something and then they do some research on it and find out, oh, yeah, he's right. That's the only way. But like I want to so desperately speak at, Contact in the Desert, because I want to teach everybody that they can find them. They can see when they're coming in. Some of them can even call them in, like Chris Bledsoe can call them in, but they're not communicating with them. I can communicate with them, but it takes telepathic psychic openness and working on yourself and your channel, and you can open up and talk with them. That's what they want. And they said that nobody's going to be able to communicate with them on their level unless it's telepathically. So get some psychics involved in this.
Your book is called The Secret That's Holding You Back.
Yes.
Can you briefly tell us what is the secret?
I like the word briefly. The secret is that your brain intentionally creates blocks that originally is to help you cope in life, but is actually stopping you from evolving spiritually. Because the two highest functions of the brain, what? Is one, to keep us alive, two, to protect us in order to keep us alive. Well, we know how it protects us physically. Our immune system is an automatic physical way of protecting us. Well, what happens if you have emotional pain? Well, there is a way to protect us from that pain as well. It creates a new set of beliefs to shield us from those original painful set of beliefs. As I said earlier, I call them the I'm nots. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. I'm not deserving. So why that matters so much, even though we are allowed to cope now, and we can see the people that don't have those coping mechanisms, that don't shield those feelings, they're the ones experiencing depression, suicidal ideations, anxiety, all of those pathologies, right? Because they don't have the defense mechanisms. But those defense mechanisms get in the way of us manifesting. They're fake, they're false, they fall by the wayside eventually. And you might have some false confidence in the beginning that gets you advanced in your life, but now you're trying to really hit the top, or you're really trying to succeed or get that better job or get more money. But if little you is saying, you don't deserve more money, you're not good enough. That's what's influencing the law of attraction, your power, because that's where we are connected. There is a fallacy in teaching the law of attraction. All you hear are thoughts create. Thoughts create. Matter of fact, the New Thought movement is about that. Have a new thought, you create a new life. That's actually a misleading idea. Your thoughts do not create. Think about that for a minute. You even see people who really believe that, because they'll say something, with my luck, they're not going to have any of that when I get to the store. Oh, no, take back, take back, take back, take back. It's like they think the minute they think something is going to manifest because they're being taught that. No, it's your inner core beliefs that manifest. Your thoughts influence your beliefs, but what you believe deep down in the depths of you, in your unconscious mind, where little you resides because you're an accumulation of your entire lifetime, that's what manifests, because there's where you're connected. So the conscious adult you may say, I want a partner. I want a family. I know, I'm lovable. I can't wait. I'm going to get somebody great. But little you is turning around and saying, you're not lovable. Don't you remember the way you were treated when you were growing up? Nobody loves you. And even if you do find somebody, it's not going to last, or you'll sabotage it. It'll go bad. And so now, like attracts like, that energy goes out into the universe. You attract somebody else with the same inner core feelings, put these two people together, and in the beginning, they're trying to meet each other's emotional needs that weren't met when they were younger, and eventually it falls apart. And you're saying, well, there's problems because the right partner is not out there, or I have to move in order to find them, or all the good guys are married, or they're gay, or they come up with all these excuses, and then the guys come up with the same excuses for not meeting the right woman. But in that reality, and the secret is, it's because you don't believe what you think you believe. That's what my book is about, and that's what gets everybody working on it. I teach methods in it to bring those beliefs to the surface and then change those beliefs. You can't paste affirmations over your negative self-beliefs. You've got to change the negative self-beliefs because we're powers, and you can't lie with your power. You can't fake it like that. You can't just keep saying, I'm good, I love myself, I deserve everything, I'm healthy, I'm strong, if you don't believe it. That's why I said earlier that all this work and all this learning that everybody is doing on this new movement and this positive journey everybody is taking spiritually, metaphysically, paranormally, unless you truly believe it and do that inner core work, nothing is going to happen the way you want it to happen, or maybe just a little. That's what my book is about.
Are you going to be at the Sedona Ascension Retreat in March?
Yes, I'm one of the speakers there. I'm doing and the opening talk on Saturday, and I'm also and my opening talk is about this. It's about my book, and then I'm doing a workshop helping and teaching people how to become psychic and mediums.
Oh, cool. Will you go out and check out the vortexes or lead people to them?
I have before, and I certainly do when I'm there. I feel them very readily and very easily, which is really interesting. So I do tap into them and take advantage of them. And of course, there'll always be a journey of some kind, even calling and talking with the extraterrestrials and seeing if we can bring in some light orbs. That's what the orbs are. When people are seeing light orbs, there's different functions here. There are actual physical aliens in their ships coming, right? But then there's the transfigured ones that come in the orbs, but they can actually take the shape, come back into physical form right in front of you. That's what actually Chris Bledsoe has seen. The light orbs have actually landed on his lake and then all of a sudden turn into an alien, right? And then there's the spiritual form, just like the angels and your deceased loved ones. So we've got three forms of visitations that are coming here: physical, transcendent, and spiritual. And so, yes, we'll probably be going out and doing some of that as well. It's going to be an incredible weekend. We have so many people there. Daryl is there that is channeling, Bashar, and so many others that are wonderful, that I'm so excited to be there.
Well, is there anything else that you're working on that you want people to know about?
Well, my podcast to go to, I had a wonderful interview with Neil Donald Walsh just recently because he's got a new book coming out. So there's so much information. I want people to just keep going and listening to your podcast, keep coming back to your guests, go to other ones as well. That's going to expand more of your beliefs as well as inspire you to go within, inspire you to do the work. I've got several events, and you'll see that on my website. If you go to my website at vincentgenna.com, that's primarily what I'm doing. I'm doing the same work, trying to get you to raise to the surface, unblock, release, really learn who you are, believe in yourself, love yourself so that you can create the life of your dreams. That's my major goal and my major work consistently. And I will be writing, I got a new book coming out that is not being released yet. I got to finish it. That's called Stay Strong. Stay Strong. All your scars can be healed. And that's what the book is about. And it's going to give, methods and ways of being able to take care of anything that you think is blocking you, any of your past, and no matter how minimal, no matter how intense, there's always ways to heal ourselves. We're that capable, and we have to believe in ourselves to do that.
Vincent, before we wrap it up, can you leave us with one more positive message?
Oh, yes. One more positive message. Okay. Well, there's so many to try to pick one of them. You are, well, I'll just be reiterating everything all over again. Basically, when I say is that you're a powerful beyond measure. I love Marianne Williamson's. I'm going to, steal her quote. Go and look it up. I don't have the entire thing to verbatim, but one of her greatest quotes in her book, Return to Love, is that you are powerful beyond measure. Okay, it's not your inadequacies that you fear. It's that you are powerful beyond measure. We fear our power. We fear our light. And we don't need to fear it anymore. All right. We've learned through the ages not to misuse it anymore. And so you can connect, you can tap into it and be that power and be that strength in this life to be able to manifest and create what you want, to be able to heal your illnesses, to be able to get the vocation of your dreams, to be able to have the finances and abundance, to be able to give you an abundance in love, to give you the life that you want to and the way you want to live it. We're all capable of that. That was not a tease. That is the truth. And here is a mantra. Here is a mantra that I would like to leave you with that is in my book. Okay. And this helped me through so many different things in life. I love myself so much that I'm going to do whatever I need to do to have my greatest experience here because I deserve it. And if you want, throw the New York flair to it at the end. I love myself so much. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to have my greatest experience here because I deserve it. Damn it. And that's the New York Italian flair, too, by the way. You got to use your hand, too. Damn it. You know, with all of that. That's what I would like to leave you with.
Vincent, thank you for your message. And thank you for being my guest.
Oh, Jeff, thank you so much. You're so appreciated and so loved. And I feel blessed to be able to be on your show. So thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.